Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we've got a very special guest. He is the head coach at Florida Gulf Coast University, who just tied for the conference title in the Coastal Collegiate Swimming Association, CCSA Women. Today, we are sitting down with Dave Rollins.
Happy to be here.
What a week. It wasn't even a weekend. It was like a Monday to Wednesday meet, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was weird. I mean, we left on a Saturday, started competing on a Monday. I mean, I think we're the only show in town, as I was telling the girls. There's nothing else in the swimming community really going on. You know, all eyes are going to be on our event. And then to be done on Wednesday was great. Because I get to come home and, be with my family and have a weekend before we get back to everything.
Which is such a rarity in swimming, especially for coaches. And so that sounds super nice. But let's break this thing down to give our listeners a little bit of context. Like I said, the Coastal Collegiate Swimming Association, they had their conference meet Monday, February 15th to Wednesday, February 17th. In the final team standings, Liberty University and Florida Gulf Coast tied at 1,748.5 points each. That is so many points for it to come down to a tie. We see ties in swimming all the time, but we never, I don't know if I've ever seen a conference championship tie.
Especially with our conference. So the fact that it's at Liberty, who has a 9-lane pool, we score up to 27 places, and just the sheer number of available points in any given event. I mean, it's unheard of. I've never personally been a part of a team tie. Individuals, swimming, that happens all the time, like you said. But yeah, I mean, it was wild. That's for sure.
And I mean, so first off, just how do you feel about it? How do you feel about tying for a championship?
It feels great. I mean, we were losing by about 60 points going into the last day. So, for us, it was a constant high, event after event after event, just chipping away and, coming out. Yeah, I don't care if it's a tie. I mean, there's still a number one next to our name. So, we're definitely happy with it.
And then, and now let's kind of break that down. Heading into the meet, just from a coaching perspective and from a points perspective, were you thinking we might be able to win this thing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think every coach has got to go in with the mindset of, thinking that they can win, to help their team be in their best spot, so they can get their best performances. But, everybody all over the place is affected in different ways. North Florida wasn't even able to compete, due to contact tracing and things inside their program. And, we had a young lady that wasn't able to travel. One of our divers wasn't able to travel for a different reason, non-COVID related. But, they're the same thing on all the other teams. I mean, everybody had people out all over the place. So, you never really knew what to expect. You always hope for the best, but you never really truly know what to expect.
And then like you said, you get there on Saturday, and then the meet starts Monday. Prep wise, did you feel like you were in a good spot? Just once everyone had gotten there, once you knew the meet was actually happening, did you feel pretty confident with your team and heading into competition?
Yeah. I mean, once you get to the meet and you're in that coaches meeting and everyone's kind of taking a sigh of relief, they're like, we actually got here. It's gonna happen. We're gonna do it. That takes a lot of pressure off. I think that was a really big thing that we worked really hard on as a conference to just get to this point. But then with the team themselves, I mean, they were ready to go. I mean, they were fired up. They were excited. Watching them swim and watching them loosen up and work their way through pace and all that kind of stuff on Sunday was great to see. They were relaxed. They were excited. You didn't know it was a Sunday. It could have been any day. I mean, just like the last 12 months, no one really knows what day it is. You just showing up and going. So that was kind of our mentality. Just be there and do the best we can, given the opportunity.
Yeah. And then those first couple days, take me through it from your personal perspective as a coach, and then also from what you saw with your athletes.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the team race, I mean, it was super close after the first day, which traditionally never happens for us. We're usually pretty far behind. And the second day tends to be a little bit better for us, and the third day tends to be our best day. So, from a team standpoint, I was really happy with how we did after that first day. The team was in great energy, great mindset. They were ready to go. A little nerve wracking on the second day, seeing the lead stretch a little too much. But we knew we were never really truly out of it. I think I went through the full roller coaster of emotions of this is going really, really well to what could I have done better to we're going to do really, really well to what could I have done better. And all the way up until the very end on the last day. So, I mean, it was truly wild. I mean, I think I talked to my wife more the last 12 hours of being away than I did the first probably 36 of me being gone. Just like talk me off the ledge. Okay, build me up. Okay, talk me. Here we go. Like let's work our way through it. We're gonna figure this out. But no, I mean it took a few days to recover as well. I mean it was I don't know, man. It was wild. It was really fun.
Yeah. And I mean, and then I got to break down this last day. Heading into prelims, what were you telling the team? And then in your head, what were you kind of thinking? Okay, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah. So uh, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to swimming. So anyone who sees this that knows me, that's not going to be any surprise. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, we got to get X number into this heat. We got to try and, they're going to be really good in this event. So we got to be better here. This, kind of going back and forth. But, talking to the team, it's kind of that same conversation that I'm sure any coach would have going into the last day prelims. This is the most important session. You get it done in the morning to have the opportunity to score those points at night. So, for them to maximize those opportunities in the morning, as much as they possibly could, was great. A lot of things had to kind of break our way a little bit. The 100 freestyle, Kaya tied for ninth, so she had to do a swim off just to give us a fourth person into the A final. And I said it multiple times, if there's one person I wanted to swim off, it's going to be her. Like she finds a whole new level. You put her on the end of relay, she's going to go above and beyond what she's capable of doing. Swim off, she's going to get her hand on the wall first. Somehow she's going to figure it out. Breaststroke.
And so I'm assuming she won the swim off.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, barely. It was a couple hundreds in between. I thought they were going to tie again. I was standing next to the other coach, and I think I was like grabbing his shoulders. I was just like, we weren't physically distant, so it wasn't. Probably cut this part out of the interview, but I'm like grabbing. I was like, they're going to tie, and then I look at the scoreboard, and I was like, yes, and he's like, ah. So I mean, we both had like the different emotions because he obviously wanted it for his athlete to be in the final as well. So. But then, yeah, I mean, breaststroke, we're fortunate, to have Petra, who's the conference record holder. So we knew she was going to get into the A final. But then we had a freshman and a sophomore that, the sophomore last year had mono. So we're kind of like, well, I think she's going to do better. And then a freshman, you never really know. She'd been swimming really well. Rebecca had been swimming well. Anna both had been swimming well. So we figured they would slide in there. And then 200 butterfly. Our girl Julia coming off. She was quarantined for like 2 weeks, and we're just like, "Come on, girl! If you can finish, we're gonna be good." And we got fortunate to get our girls into the finals where they needed to be. We got our girl Michaela, who ended up being in the A final. Surprisingly, she ended up swimming the mile later in the day, then having to come back and swim the A final. The 200 fly was a tough double, but she was ready for it. I mean, I don't know. It just, like I said, everything had to line up just right. Like those girls had to swim out of their brains just to make it happen, to get to the point where if we're fortunate enough to win the relay, that we get to end in a tie.
Yeah. So then coming into that final session, was the energy on the team different than it had been the rest of the week?
it was amazing going into that last session. And they ramped it up. I don't know where they found it, where it came from, but they found a whole new level, and their support for one another, they're cheering for one another. They put these little eagle tattoos on their faces. I mean, it was incredible. I'm usually kind of a nervous wreck, and I pace back and forth on the pool deck, and I rarely stand still. And those, they're just like, God, you're good. Like, calm down, you're fine. I'm just like, this is just how I am. Like, I'm good to go. But no, it was a whole new level that's they brought on that final night. It was really cool.
And tell me about some of the highlights, Lee. How did the individual swims go for you in that final session?
Yeah, so we started off with the 1650. Michaela was winning until the last half of a yard, and then she got touched out. So that was all high energy all the way through until the last 10th of a second. But it was a phenomenal swim for her. It was the best time by about 10 seconds. I think the year before she was maybe 5th or 6th in the mile, and just move up to second was really cool to see. Hannah finished 3rd, and she got best time for her. And she was kind of swimming. The next closest person was Sarah from our team, so she won a best time by probably about 10 or 11 seconds. So we kicked off the night about as well as we possibly could have. And then we knew going into the 200 backstroke, Liberty's got some phenomenal backstrokers, and they're going to probably be better than our girls. We had Emma in the B final, and she went out like a bat out of hell that first 100. She was a 56 in finals of the 100 backstroke. She took it out in 57, and we were just like, hold on, girl. She moved up, probably moved up like 4 or 5 places. Claire and Alice in the A final, I think they held steady to where they were from prelims. So that was solid. We saw the lead kind of shift a little bit because our girls, Liberty's girls went 1, 2, 3. So that kind of took a little hit. But we knew Hunter Free was coming up, so we were pretty excited about how they were going to do. And they kept moving up. Tori ended up winning the 100 free. Zoo got seconds, which was great. Kaya moved up to 4th, after being tied for 9th. So on her 3rd 100 of the day, she kept getting faster, which was really neat. And Jolie being in there as well was awesome for the team. 200 breaststroke. Once the 100 freestyle was over, it was just kind of like, how's it going to end? It just kept going back and forth. Yeah.
Do you remember what the score was like after that 100 freestyle?
I think, if I remember correctly, we were back in the lead, but not by very much. We had, I think we had 3 girls in the 200 breaststroke A final. I think Liberty also had 3 girls in the A final, but they also had a B final swimmer. So we knew that they were going to catch us and maybe move a little bit ahead. So going into butterfly, after that B final swim, Julia and Alexis swam out of their minds the first 125 of those 200 butterflies. They were 1-2 in the B final all the way up until probably the last 15 yards, and then they kind of got past a little bit. But both of them moved up tremendously from where they were. And I could see it. I did the math in my head. I was like, all right, if Michaela finishes 4th and Lindsay from Liberty wins, then they're going to be up by 7 points. And if we can win the relay, we win by a point. And I was like, as long as Michaela doesn't go lower than 5th, then we're gonna win. We're gonna walk away as champions. We're gonna tie, but we're gonna win. And so Michaela's running in like 3rd, almost all the way through her final, and just right at the end, she swam the mile an hour beforehand. The poor girl's arms were probably falling off, and fades just a little bit, gets touched out for 5th, and I was like, oh. And then I was like, wait a minute, we're gonna win. I pulled the girls together, and we all kind of, I pulled the rest of the team together. The relay girls got huddled together. They knew what they needed to do. And I was like, look, ladies, if our relay wins and they get 2nd, it's going to be a tie at the end of the meet. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Like, it means we win. Like, that's it. It means it's over. All the events are done. There's nothing else we can do. So it means you guys would win. And so we're just like, all right, safe starts, just finish legally, make sure you get a little bit faster than their relay, and we're good to go. So yeah, we were down 8 points going into the relay, and Jake, strolls over from the other side of the pool, Liberty coach, and he's like, man, it's like, what a meet. Like, good job, guys. We're just going back and forth, congratulating each other. And I was like, look, it's not over yet. He's like, oh, well, I think you guys can probably win this relay. And the way we kind of spread everything out, we only had 4 relays in each heat with space in between all the lanes. So their relay was in the heat before ours. So we didn't actually race head to head. We saw what their relay did. So we knew the time that we kind of had to beat. And I swear I've never seen slower relay starts in my life. Those girls were so safe. They probably left a good second and a half on the blocks just to make sure that they didn't get disqualified. So, after the 100 freestyle, it was just back and forth, small little point movements until the very end.
And so Liberty moved up from, like, I believe they were seated 6th in that relay, is what I think I read, but they weren't seated 2nd, and they moved up at least a few spots to ultimately finish 2nd by quite a big margin. Was that a surprise for you, especially with after the Liberty coach coming over and saying, good meet, I think you guys got it?
Well, no, we always know that they're going to be at their best come the end of the season. So regardless of what their entry times are, they're gonna swim faster. They're gonna dive better than they have all season long. So my expectation of them is if they're not winning, they're getting second. They've won their fair share of relays in the past, and if we haven't won, they've won. It's gone back and forth. So regardless of where they're seated, I always expect that they're gonna be a challenge for all their girls, all the way across the board. We see them, dropping tons of time from their seed times into finals all the time.
And you said your girls had the safest, or your women had the safest starts you've ever seen. What was the energy like during that relay, though?
It was awesome. So Tori led off the relay. She had just won the 100 freestyle. So we were feeling pretty confident going into the relay. And when she touched the wall, all the girls already knew, the splits from the heat before. And so she was, roughly, I don't know if it was a second or somewhere around a second ahead of where Peyton was that led off for Liberty's relay. And they just went off. Just huge cheers, eruption, and I swear it could have made the rest of the girls on the relay just super nervous. Zoo went second, and we've been working on a relay start all year long, all season long. She goes down and just grabs the block like a regular, just like take your mark start. And I was just like, what are you 7? What are you doing? What are you doing? But she was safe. And she swam out of her mind, and it was great. Yeah, and so just the energy on the pool deck was great. The girls were going nuts. We as coach, Laura, who coaches the majority of those girls, was just cheering her brains out as well. I'm continuously pacing back and forth, just like saying a small little prayer, like, please, Lord, just let them finish legally. We're gonna be good. And then every time somebody hit the wall and the next girl dove in, the cheers just got louder and louder.
That sounds super exciting, especially in such a barn burner situation. I think every swimmer has been at a final session of at the final session of their big meet, and been in that excitement. That's so cool. And so was it interesting having 2 teams celebrate a first place victory?
It was a little weird. Yeah, for sure. So we had to figure out the logistics of how we're going to do it. So, you can't have like both full teams all in the same area all at the same time. And so like, all right, well, you guys will get to go first. We'll take your pictures, with the trophy, and then just, kind of leave it there. And so then, Liberty would come in and they'll take their photos and they'll do all that kind of stuff. Both of us wanted to jump in the pool, obviously, as you do when you're celebrating. We just didn't know where we're all going to be jumping in. So I was just like, all right, ladies, just, we'll go back to our team area. We'll jump in kind of on our side. They jumped in on their side. They were sitting on the other side of the pool. Oops, sorry. Other side of the pool from us. So like we jumped into lane 1, they jumped into lane 9. We're all just kind of cheering and doing our own little thing. But it was different having, another team, in there, cheering and doing the same thing too. So, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world, because we got to, the girls had a phenomenal experience, and, they were champions. So, I mean, it was different, but everything about this year has been different. So,
Yeah, that I like that. It seems like a fitting end to a fitting to an interesting season, right? I
absolutely.
mean, have you it's, since you've had time to reflect upon this, have you kicked yourself at all? Say, how could we have scored half a point?
I told my wife, I got back on Thursday night, and I told my wife, I was like, look, I'm not going to think about it until Monday. I was like, I knew myself. I'd already started thinking about it on the plane ride and all these other kind of things. But I told her, I was like, you got to hold me accountable. No conversations about what we could have changed, done better, or moved, whatever, until Monday. Give me the weekend. Let me decompress. Let me hang out with the kids. Let me do something non really swimming focused. But I mean, we couldn't do it. We got through probably 12 hours, and then just started thinking like, and it could have gone either way for either team. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways that, it could have broken either way for either team. If one girl on our team does a little bit better, one girl from their team does a little bit better, one of ours does a little bit worse, so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's literally hundreds of seconds determined that final tie outcome. They had a tie. They had a girl who tied. We had a girl who tied. Like that's literally to the 100th of a second. We had a girl get touched out in the 100 butterfly by 1/100th of a second. But we were also benefiting from winning a swim off. To move in. So I could kick myself as much as I possibly want, to try and figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything. I just need to, be able to enjoy the moment, but still understand that we were definitely fortunate to have a championship meet in the first place. So that was the biggest takeaway.
And that's kind of my final point. What I wanted to discuss is what are your takeaways from this experience? Not necessarily, oh, how could we have scored that extra half a point, but how do we move forward from here in a proactive way?
Yeah, I think the experience is not something that we as coaches can coach, right? The athletes had to go through that experience of fighting for every last 100th of a second all the way through for them to see what they've been working for all season long. Like that was their team goal, was to ultimately win a conference championship. But it wasn't going to happen if they didn't go through that experience on the final night. And as much as we can talk to them about what it's like, you don't know until you're actually in it. And to see, our team is very young. We're majority freshmen and sophomores, and to see their just shift in mentality and willingness to just, I mean, it's cliche to put all on the line, but to put themselves in such a painful position for the betterment of their team, it was incredible. I mean, that's something that you always want to have and want to see, as a coach, but to actually see them do it was incredible. I mean, that's the biggest takeaway for me is to be able to see the shift that they made mentally, and how they were willing to find and able to find another level on that final day to make it happen.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned these underclassmen putting it on the line and sacrificing for their teams. And I'm curious how things have been for you all just this whole season. Obviously it's been an interesting one, like you mentioned. But what how have you had to adapt, adjust, and change your normal training in Fort Myers this year?
Yeah. Well, I think we're very fortunate with our facility setup that we have an 8-lane 50-meter pool, and we're a women's only program. And so our divers have a separate diving facility, so their schedule isn't really changed around a whole lot. For us, we swim 1 or 2 per lane anyway, pretty normally when we go short course. But just starting on opposite ends was kind of our biggest change and adjustment. So we're not having to try and space people out as much as we possibly can. It's really weird being in the weight room and seeing them lifting with masks on. When they're breathing heavy and you see them, they're trying to suck in air, and that mask is getting sucked in. That was something that was absolutely different for them. But I think we've definitely been very fortunate and blessed in our setup, because I know a lot of teams had to make a lot of drastic changes. Not everybody is as fortunate as we are with our facility, and I know a lot of coaches have spent a lot of hours on pool decks running multiple practice sessions, so just so they can space everybody out. I think obviously our competition schedule was affected by just kind of the way the season kind of went. But I don't think our training was affected as much as it probably could have been if we were in a different location, or we had a different facility set up.
And that makes sense, but it's also, I think everyone's affected in a different way, and everyone has their own set of rules, regulations, circumstances they have to work through, work around. Did just your approach to training this year change at all, especially with there was so much downtime, so much in-house time, that I know a lot of coaches I've talked to were just chit-chatting with each other and sharing ideas and say, hey, maybe it's a good time to try this, good time to try that. Did you get the opportunity to try out anything new this season?
Yeah, I got an opportunity to use part of my psychology degree a lot more. It was I think that was probably the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of people, was the mental aspect of just a different lifestyle. So much is being asked of you, and so much is being put on you to keep yourself away. Humans, we're such social creatures that we need to be around other people all the time, and just through a screen is not the same. Through text message is not the same. They need that human interaction. So trying to find ways to connect with the team and to help them work their way through it was that was probably the most challenging thing. And again, I mean, I talk to coaches I'm one of the biggest swim nerds out there. I mean, I watch videos constantly. I talk to coaches all the time. I'm trying to constantly learn and try new things. And I remember watching Jeremy Kipp's presentation on how he was training Calypso, and I'm like, all right, what can I take away from this? How can I help some of my athletes and our girls learn and grow? And I know I'm not by any stretch of the imagination perfect in anything I do, and so if there's a way I can learn and help somebody else, especially in events that I might not feel the most confident in coaching, then I'm going to be the biggest sponge that I can possibly be to help them out. So I did plenty of that. Text messages out the wazoo from coaches and conversations about what they're doing. But yeah, at the end of the day, the most important thing that we could do is just help take care of our athletes, as they're trying to navigate this thing just like we are. None of us really have it all kind of figured out. So if we can be there to help them, the way through, then that's definitely what we're going to do.
Was the team chemistry, did building the team chemistry, especially from within the team, maybe not so much starting with you, but just starting with the leaders on the team, the upperclassmen, was that a challenge that you saw them overcome this season as well?
Yeah. So, it's like my recruiting spiel. The recruits ask, like, what's the team culture like? I'm a big believer that it has to be their motivation and their want to get to know each other and grow together has to be coming from them. It has to be intrinsic for them. So as much as I want to say like, hey, you guys need to do this to get to know each other better, or hey, you guys should do this. That's like dad telling their kids, hey, you got to clean up your toys. It doesn't go over as well. They have to want to do it. And so for them to realize that, and for them to, find ways to get to know each other and grow and bond, with one another, was huge as far as our team chemistry is concerned. A massive shift from a year ago to now, just with, their mental outlook and how they approach training and how they approach competitions and just, how much fun they were having and just being around one another. I mean, even it was goofy and it wasn't a normal college experience, but, just seeing the smiles on their faces at practice. And, as I tell them, if I can crack a terrible dad joke and it's going to make one person smile, then I'm going to do it probably 15 more times until everybody smiles. And, they're probably rolling their eyes, but it's fine. I don't care. I'll make myself look stupid if that's what it takes to help put a smile on their face to help make their day a little bit better. So, but no, I mean, yeah, the team chemistry coming from them was awesome. That's what we saw come out on the last day. It all came from them. It wasn't a magical speech. It wasn't like the 1980 U.S. hockey team miracle speech. It wasn't something that I said to spark something in them. It was in them. They just needed to have the opportunity to bring it out.
That's pretty inspiring stuff.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a big change just from a year ago. Would you say that's from new personnel coming in? Would you say that's just because of the pandemic we're in? Did you see? Can you put your finger on one or two things of why that was?
Honestly, I mean, every year the team's going to be different. So I mean, we were really young last year. I mean, the majority of our team were freshmen a year ago. So for them to have gone through the experience of a full season to get to the championship meet, to see what it's like, they could be a little bit more relaxed, or they could be a little bit more excited. And that helped our youngest, the freshman class kind of work their way through. We only have one senior on the team this year. And so, I mean, a handful of juniors, and then the rest are, sophomores and freshmen. So for them to have gained that experience and to know what they're getting themselves into, I think was a big thing, to help them, kind of make that little shift and to not be too timid going into like a championship setup.
And I mean, where do you go from here? You won the title in spectacular fashion, and what's next in Fort Myers?
Well, we have one young lady going to a last chance meet this weekend to try and see if she can squeeze 2/10 out of a 50 freestyle, in hopes of making it. We have Petra, who's qualified. Hopefully, well, I'm sure she'll make it with a 208.1, 200 breaststroke for NCAA's. So that's kind of what we're getting ready for now. But as far as the team's taken a well-deserved few days off, to soak up some sunshine and be away from a chlorinated environment for a little while. But we kind of shift our focus on the spring and the summer, and get excited for the freshman class that's coming in. And if we're fortunate enough to be in a position next year where we can maybe win again, that would be awesome. We'll take it one kind of day, week, month at a time. We'll get there.
Dave, I really appreciate you sharing this really fun story and taking the time to sit down with me for a bit. Any parting thoughts before we sign off today?
I mean, I think all across the country, we're very lucky to be having meets. They look weird. They're different. Setups are different. Seating is different. But, the athletes are getting to compete. We as coaches get to do what we love to do. We're very fortunate in that aspect. So I don't know. I live, I'm just happy to be doing what I'm doing. So I'm excited to see, some of these other conferences go. I mean, I know ACCs and SECs just finished, and there's a lot of fast swimming going on there, and Big Tens and Pac-12s are going on, and Conference USA always has some fast swims, and I'll be kind of curious to see how some of these athletes in conferences that are after NCAA's are kind of approaching. Maybe they go to a last chance meet to see if they can get a chance to go to the NCAA championships, and then go on to their conference meet. That's gonna be kind of interesting, kind of fun to see.
I couldn't agree more. I'm excited that we have conference championships,
Yes.
and watching like you said, SECs and
Yes, the Kentucky
ACCs.
women. That was amazing. That was so cool.
It's been a wild year, and it continues to be very surprising, and yeah, seeing a lot of things we haven't seen, which is awesome for our sport, I think. So
Absolutely.
yeah, again, Dave, I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Yes, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.